We are at Buatai Ramen. How do you like the spot?
The spot is absolutely beautiful.
All my guests that come here, they're like, I gotta bring my joints here. I gotta
absolutely.
bring for date night. So it's good that they had me back. I ain't been here in a while. So my last recording was here, but before that, it was like 2-3 months.
No, this is a place I think I could come to at least once a month.
Yeah.
Like you said, with a date, girls' night.
Yep.
This is really nice.
So nice to have you, Stella.
Nice to be here, Llama.
So how did you find me first?
Okay. Honestly, I'm on so many of the Black podcast pages, like the comedy and romance. I feel like I found you on either Tahoe's page.
Yes.
It was definitely Tahoe. I was going to say either Tahoe or Eight at the Table.
Tahoe's page.
When I went to Tahoe's page, I was just drawn to you. Something just said click, view, and I was hooked. I started following you that day. I'm so serious.
Was it the pee in the mouth thing, that video?
No. It was you were talking to a gentleman who had
the roommate.
Yes, the roommate who she lived like a college dorm in her apartment, and it was weird as shit. But I was
find
intrigued.
it weird, right?
Yeah, it was very weird.
You seen the comments? People are
like who lives
regular.
like that? No, that's not regular.
Yeah.
If that's how you have to live as an adult, you need to find somewhere else to be.
Because I had a roommate, and I used to just put the stuff there.
Yeah.
He'd tell me like, "Oh, I took some bread. I'll buy it when I go out."
Oh.
Just work hand in hand, communication.
Oh.
But yeah, so you reached out to me.
Yes, I did.
And in the DM, he was like, "I like your podcast."
It goes down in the DM.
Yes, he was like, "I love your podcast,
Yes.
and I got a story to tell you." And I'm like, I'm listening to see if we send me a voice note. So I'm listening to the voice. I was like, she got the voice to do podcasting, and you got your own podcast. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
So I was like, she got a good voice. So I was like, it should be good.
Thank you.
And he was like, yeah, it is juicy too, because I have 3 situations I could pick from.
Yeah.
I was like, so out of the 3, which one is the most traumatic? And you was like, 2 or 3. It was an ex that did something and another ex that did something.
Right.
You picked the one that
They've
did
all done something.
Yes. And you went to the violent one.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about today.
That's the one that we're going to get into today. That's a story that I have never been able to express. And I feel grateful to be given the opportunity to talk about it. Because it's something that's been sitting on my mind for years, actually.
Right.
Yes.
All right. So before we get into that, tell the people who you are. What do you do?
Okay, I'm Stella Belafonte. I'm a Brooklyn girl.
Now, how did you wait? First, let me cut you off. Where did this Belafonte thing come from?
Okay. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't want to go with my real name when I decided that I was going to maybe get into podcasting myself. The very first night that I recorded a podcast, I was with one of my closest homegirls.
Got you.
We was sitting and drinking Stella Rosa wine.
Wow.
And we was and smoking CBD. Because I work for the city, so I can't smoke like anything with real THC.
Even now?
Yeah, I can't smoke THC. So we're smoking a little CBD, and I was drinking Stella Rosa. And I said, you know what? This is some good shit.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I should call myself Stella. I said, but wait a minute. If I call myself Stella, they're going to start thinking, oh, Stella got a group back. I said, I don't care. So then she said, you know what? Give yourself a last name. Don't just be Stella. I said, you know what? And mind you, I'm tipsy and I'm full of CBD. I said, you know, I'm going to throw Belafonte on it. And if you ask me why Belafonte, I'm giving away my age. I'm in my 40s. When I was a little girl, Harry Belafonte was one of the grooviest cats around. And that name was just so over the top and dramatic. You ain't never met a Belafonte in your life. Well, you met one today, and here I am. With my Bangkok mule, Stella Belafonte.
I already know.
It's hit me now.
Yeah,
I love the feeling.
All right, Stella. What's the name of your podcast and how long you been doing it?
Okay, I've been doing this since November, and I'm such an amateur. For anyone who's interested, it's called Tasty Top Picks, TOP-Picks, and you can find me on Spotify and Anchor FM and Google. And that's about it for now, but I call it Tasty Top Picks, and basically it's just food and fuckery for the soul. I drop a new episode every Tuesday. So if you're interested, find me there. Stella Belafonte at Tasty.
That sounds good. That sounds good. All right. And we are here today on Views of an Ex. To talk about an ex.
Dun, dun, dun.
First, I want to get into, I seen on the questionnaire that you've been in one prior relationship other than this, before you got into this one, right?
Yes, and the reason being, okay, I was explaining to Llama with this relationship, this ex, I'm digging in the crates. This is a situation that occurred when I was in my very early 20s, and I'm in my 40s now. So prior to this relationship, I was only in one other semi-relationship. You know, a lot of puppy love, high school relationships, sweethearts. This was like my first
adult
grown up. Like I got a man, not just a boyfriend.
Now, before we start, gotta do the fake name, right?
There
and when
we
you
go.
Get the fake name, you gotta describe how they look.
I got you.
All right. So if they walked into this restaurant,
yes,
how you think he would look?
If he walked into this restaurant, everybody would just drop to their feet because honestly, he was so fine.
Really?
And we're gonna get black and Hispanic. He was mixed. He was from uptown, and he was tall, a little on the light side. And if I could give a celebrity to describe who he looked like, I would say Chris Brown. Like imagine Chris Brown after several crunches and working out real hard.
Not a skinny Chris Brown.
No, a lean, mean Chris Brown. Like, know, Chris Brown is kind of like a bag of bones. But all the girls like him. So imagine Chris Brown with his looks. You know, everybody likes the face, the hair, but with some rips and cuts. That's what my ex reminded me of.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's back in like the 90s.
Ooh, no. Look, not that far. Let's bring it a little further into the new millennium. Actually, it was early 2000s.
Okay.
Very early.
All right. And at that time, do you have braids? I know braids.
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. In the very early 2000s, that's when I first started experimenting with wigs. And it was not like it is now. You see how everything now is beautiful. Yeah. No, everything's a good wig. Ooh, they were not so good back then.
What would they give you?
They was giving you whatever they had. That's when we didn't have MUAs and, you know, stylists that was hooking you up. You had to go to the Korean or the Vietnamese or the whoever and just grab you a wig, whatever you could afford.
That's for the women. I was talking about the men. Like Lil Bow Wow was out at that time.
Oh, you're talking about
Lil Wayne.
You know what? Back then, a lot of guys were running around with cornrows.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But my dude, no. He had dark waves, like a nice dark fade, really nice wavy hair, kept a fresh cut. So no braids.
So I was actually if I could give the fake name, we're gonna call him Cashmere.
You know what? It's so funny you said that. The way I described him, I said, no, I'm not lying. No shit. Because I felt like he needed an over the top, smooth, silky name. And Cashmere is it. You just made my day with that.
All right. I was
ready for Stella and Cashmere.
All right, Stella and Cashmere, we got it.
Okay.
So take us back to where y'all first met.
Take you way back in the time. Okay, this was my first experience living uptown. I'm a Brooklyn girl.
Okay.
So I was invited to leave home because I was being fast. You know what that means, staying out all night.
Yeah.
And I was raised by my grandparents. I lived in my family's house. So when I was in my very early 20s, I had gotten into a phase where it's like, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Right.
And my family felt like, you can do what you want to do. You just ain't going to do it here. So I had a couple of real close friends that lived uptown. And they invited me to come live up there too because Stella had to go. My grandfather was actually, can I tell you a real funny story, Lana? How I ended up uptown. I was laying in the bed one day and I heard a knock on my bedroom door. My grandfather walked in my bedroom with a real estate agent. It was like, come on, let's go. And took me to some terrible apartments to look for. And I just started crying. 17? I was, in my early 20s, but I wasn't ready to leave home. I was just
back in those times, parents like 18 you out. And then.
But it's like my family felt like as long as you were acting right, doing the right thing, had a job, you can stay here. Not just staying out all night with the fellas, hanging out with your friends, coming home drunk, and then thinking that you won't live here. So he walked in my room with a real estate agent, like I said, very early 20s.
Yeah.
And hurt my feelings, made me get in the car, go look at this shitty apartment. And after that, I called my friends crying. It was like, girl, you can come move uptown. And that was how I ended up uptown. Yeah.
Wow. Was it a culture shock?
Absolute culture shock.
People don't understand. People outside of New York don't understand how we live in 5 boroughs, but they all are different.
It's like 5 different kingdoms.
Yes. And I had to explain to my friend, she lives in Chicago. She was like, so what's the difference between the Bronx and Brooklyn?
Everything. All things.
And she's like, what about Harlem and Queens? I was like, I had to explain it to her. It's a lot to get into.
They are. I'm serious.
Everybody's different.
Own individual kingdom. And the Bronx, as you said, was total culture shock.
Yeah.
One thing I thought was cute about the Bronx that I couldn't really get used to at first was, there's a lot of Afro Latinos in the Bronx.
Yes.
And
especially
Harlem.
Uptown,
being that I was uptown. Yeah. Bronx, Harlem, wherever. and there was a lot of Afro Latinos, and you would have blacks just walk up to you and start speaking Spanish,
Yes.
just assuming that you spoke
They still
Spanish.
do that to this day.
Look, Lama, I had one lady come up to me speaking Spanish, and I had to give her hands like, no, cut English only. She said, you don't speak Spanish? She said, Mommy, that's a shame. She told me it was a shame.
Like you learn English, but you came to America. What are you talking about?
Oh, one more thing. This was so far back in the early 2000s when you still had phone books to look up phone numbers.
Yes.
And in the Bronx, this was the only borough that did this. They actually had a whole separate yellow pages in Spanish only. So that was, I swear to God.
What?
And that was definitely a culture shock. I had never seen anything like that.
So that book was big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you had both.
Yeah. All
right.
Spanish businesses and no English. It was cool though. It was cool.
So early 2000s,
Mhm.
you're in the Bronx, and how you bump into Cashmere?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you. So anyway, like I said, since I was invited to leave home and I called my friends crying, I'm going to shout her out. My girlfriend Danielle told me that I could come stay with her. She was a
Right.
friend actually through a family member that I'm not close to anymore.
Right.
So I'm not even going to mention him. And she had her own apartment. Like, back then when you were in your early 20s, I don't know if you experienced this. This was the time where you had parents that were packing up and leaving home,
Yeah,
leaving the
and leaving
kids
the
the
apartment.
apartment,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
would die and you would
Yeah.
inherit the old
Yeah.
apartment. And that's what ended up
Oh,
happening.
she was living good.
Yeah, well, actually, she inherited her mom's apartment because
Yeah.
her mother passed away.
Okay.
So she had a big 2-bedroom apartment. She was in there all by herself.
Yeah.
She had just had a baby. And I was like, yeah, won't you come stay with me? I said, hell yeah. And she was like, I won't charge you much. I think at that time, she was telling me I could pay her $150 every 2 weeks. Can you imagine
I
a
wish.
beautiful big apartment, uptown, and doing what I want? We was just like the Peanuts, no adults. Well, we were the
Yeah.
adults, but we were young adults,
Yeah.
just having fun and living. So how I met Cashmere, living in the Bronx, riding the train. Look,
Okay.
230 White Plains, and
Up
that's back when meeting a dude on the train was cool. And I felt somebody watching me. I'm sitting on the 5 train coming from Brooklyn to the Bronx one day. And I felt them watching me. So when the doors opened for me to get off, he actually pulled me. And I say, got up and pulled me. That was like, it made my heart race. Like, it was very aggressive.
Yeah.
He got up and he pulled me. I said, you gonna make me miss my stop? He said, no, you're not. And he got off with me. And that's when he asked my name. And just imagine, like I said, he was fine like Chris Brown. And
How
We didn't-
describe yourself at this time?
I was not Chris Brown's match. Honestly, I had a lot of issues with self-esteem back then. I was a little on the hefty side. Again, I was going through it because I had just left home for the first time as an adult. I'm uptown with all of these strange people.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, I wasn't feeling good. Honestly, I wasn't looking to meet anybody. So when he saw me, I didn't even understand what he saw in me.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he liked what he saw, and he sure stopped me. And I got something else to add to that. So this is so far back where phones were in black and white. There was
Yeah.
no color,
Yeah.
no nothing. You
Flip
had to go
phones.
flip phone. Not even. This is even before the flip phone.
Dang.
You had to go by minutes. So we were still
Yes,
exchanging
yes.
numbers by paper. It was easier than to try to save it immediately
Mm-hmm.
on your phone. And at that time, I was 24 years old.
Mm.
And I asked him, I said, how old are you? Guess how old he was?
What?
20 years old.
20?
So I was a cougar at 24. And back then we didn't have a term for that. So I was a damn 24. But he just looked so good. He was over 6 feet
Yeah.
tall, just aggressive and fine. I was like, you 20. I said, you a baby. He was like, I look like a baby. So mind you, he had on like dusty construction clothes.
Yeah.
He said, come on, I'm a man. I work. And I was just so intrigued.
Yeah.
It was just like, that's it.
Wow.
It's, take my number, let's go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And how
Me and
did that-
Cashmere.
He took your number.
We exchanged
Now,
numbers.
did you give the number to the girl apartment? Oh, you had a
no,
cell
I had
phone.
I had a
Oh, you
cell
had a cell
phone.
phone. All right, all right.
So we exchanged, but it's just we wrote it down. Even
Yes,
though we
yes.
had cell phones,
Yeah.
it was still easier writing numbers
Yeah.
down back then. So
Because
I
those
remember.
old phones, you had to click,
Yeah,
click,
it was
like,
crazy.
yeah.
Look, wasn't no screenshots or
Yeah.
nothing back then. I don't even think they had a memo pad in phones
Nothing.
back then to
It
save
was just
anything.
call and,
yeah,
and
that's
that's
it.
it, hang up.
Call and hang up.
and play Snake. That's it.
Absolutely. So, you know what? My memory, I can get it back. The night that Cashmere and myself exchanged numbers, we actually saw each other that night. because he lived uptown.
Wow.
And he came. That's when it was okay to come around somebody's way and sit on the stoop and kick
yes,
it.
yes.
And that's what he did. Our first night was him coming to sit
So
on
you
the
went
stoop.
home already? And
Yeah, I
he came
went
back.
home.
He called?
Chill. He called me.
Yes.
And we started talking. He asked me what I was doing. Absolutely nothing.
Right. And then-
Look, just living my best, worst life.
and
And he came and he sat and he kicked it with me. And I had like the hard eyes for him
Yeah,
that
yeah.
night. Like I
Wow.
fell for him.
what did y'all talk about? What was the
Everything. We talked a lot about Brooklyn. That's
Yeah.
one thing I learned about with guys uptown. They want to know. It's like Brooklyn intrigues them.
Yeah.
Like, yo, so what you lived in Brooklyn all your life then? What you do out there in Brooklyn? And I was telling him, you know how I wanted to get my first apartment on my own in a few months and how I would have a housewarming, just kicking it about everything.
Yeah.
The first thing he asked me was going to be a lot of Brooklyn cats there. I'm like,
Cause you gotta understand, at that time, Brooklyn was so grimy.
yeah, Brooklyn was.
Dudes was just punching
They
you in the
even
face
had
for no
a
reason.
song about Brooklyn. Okay, I don't know if you remember a song, Brooklyn's in the House.
Yeah.
They were so corny uptown. You know they changed the words to Brooklyn stole the couch. I was
You
like, that
lying.
doesn't even make sense. Who says that? I kid you not. Right here to go. I said Brooklyn stole the couch.
Yes.
Yeah.
They was so grimy.
Yeah,
I
they was
didn't like
grimy and
Brooklyn.
goofy about Brooklyn. But anyway, so me and Cashmere kicked it. You know, we got into our interests, and that's back then. I'm only in my early 20s. The
Yeah.
only dates I had ever been on with men was movies, dinner,
Yeah.
dinner, movies. So he asked me, he said, you ever play pool? I think I had been out on a pool date with a guy before who actually took me to play pool, and I watched him and all his friends, but I never participated.
Okay.
So he was like, we're going to play pool this weekend. So let's just fast forward maybe to that Friday, and we went to some big Bronx pool room drinking and playing pool.
I think I know where that's at. Yeah, I know where that's at.
And it was like close to the 3rd Avenue
Train.
Bridge.
Yeah, but it's a train there too.
Yeah, like the
Yes,
overpass.
yes.
And it was just so much. And this is back then.
Yeah.
So you can remember it. That means that place is
It's
like
old.
a staple in the
It still
Bronx.
look old, but yeah, I know where you went.
But it had a lot of like nice energy.
Mhm.
And, you know, he was doing all the shit that men do when you play pool. They lean over.
lean on
Mind
you.
you,
Yeah.
I'm bugging because this dude is 4 years younger than me.
Mhm.
But he was so grown.
He was
like
mature?
throwing his arms around me. Like, this is how you got to hold your pool stick. Let me show you. This is how you rack them up. This is the object that it can't. At 20 years old,
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
tell you mind blowing, okay, let me rewind again. Now, I said that I hadn't been in any real relationships, but what I had done in my early 20s, I had a series of like sugar daddies. You know, I was
Wait.
yeah,
At what age you have a sugar
in my
daddy?
20s. I'm
Yes.
honestly from my last year of high school. I was really one of those girls who took pride in only dating older men. Like that was the thing for us in Brooklyn. Like,
Wow.
please, we don't date high school boys. We only date grown men. So for me to date somebody 4 years younger than me, that was like
Yes.
definitely outside of my comfort zone.
Yes.
And because we just assumed that younger men had nothing to offer, nothing to show you, we believed in the bullshit that grown men were the providers, that they were the ones that spent all the money.
Gotcha.
So I got this 20-year-old showing me how to play pool, and he ordered drinks for us. Like I remember this clear as day. I'm
Wow.
drinking. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Wow.
It was just so, it got to the point where I had to look up at him like, your fine ass is only 20. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, that was our first day, and that's how we fell for each other.
And he was
So,
feeling you. Now you got
yes.
personality. Where did that come
Do
from?
I?
Yeah, like
You know what?
you're animated. Yeah.
Well,
I was looking at your IG page. I was like, she's like you outgoing,
thank
animated.
you. You know what? It's natural. One thing I will say, I had a family member who told me, because she's the same sign as me, I'm a Taurus woman.
All right.
And she said, you know what? We was born lit, cousin. That's just what it is. I've always
Yeah.
just been that way. Like fun, a good time. 'Cause it's just like good times. And
Yeah.
I also had a family that was into a lot. Like I had a family that was always out traveling and dancing. Like we came from the family where the adults didn't look for babysitters when it was time to go out. They took the kids too.
Yeah, yeah.
You sat in the coat room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had friends that had houses with bars in the basement. So, you
Right,
know,
right.
we had a good time.
That's good. That's
yeah,
good.
it's natural.
So from the pool
Mhm.
date, where did it go next?
Oh, so you know what happens after that. All of the hugging and the kissing and the loving and the squeezing. And that's the thing. For him to be so young, he was so affectionate. And that really like blew my mind too. I had never experienced like anybody younger than me, period. So that first day, I can remember him just pulling me into him. Like when he walked me to my door, like grabbing me for a kiss. Like he was dramatic with it. Like Cashmere.
What?
He was a lover. Like at 20 years old, I don't know what kind of porns this man had been watching or what kind of game he learned from his older brothers and cousins, but they definitely schooled him. Like I can remember that far back. He was the type that when he kissed you, he took you by your chin and pulled your face closer.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck do a 20-year-old know about
Right.
something like? But I gotta sip on this drink. Yeah, Cashmere had a lot of stuff with him.
Right.
Yeah, so after that, we just started. We saw each other once or twice, and then boom, next thing you know, he was upstairs in my friend's apartment.
Would you?
Oh, absolutely.
Wait.
Yeah.
That
It was
fast?
that fast. After that day, Cashmere was my boyfriend. Let me
So
talk
we gotta
about.
go back. What's going on?
Well, you know what? Back then, I think things
I'm
were
moving a little
easier.
closer.
Okay, they were so much easier because it's like once you like somebody and started hanging out, they were your boyfriend after that. Like you didn't even ask questions. It was like you my boyfriend, right? Like I'm seeing you. Like that's
That's
it.
after like having sex?
No,
or after-
no, this is all the lead. And I'm talking
Yeah.
about like after that date, he was my boyfriend. So when I say he ended up upstairs in my bedroom, I felt comfortable inviting him
Yeah,
into my
yeah.
home,
Yeah.
around my home girl. He took a liking to her. Like I would say within like the next couple of days, this man fit in like family.
Mm.
Like they looked forward to Cashmere coming through. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, and I gotta tell you, another thing that turned me on about Cashmere.
Uh-huh.
At 20 years old, he was a freaking hard hat. He was a construction worker.
Yes, yeah.
Told you the day I met him, he had on dirty construction
Yeah.
clothes. So I didn't know nothing about the construction world back
Mhm.
then. I'm in my early 20s. I just know they made money.
Yeah.
So let's just say at 20 years old, this man was probably bringing home, he was getting paid under the
That
table.
time,
He was
yeah.
non-union. I would say about $1,000 a week, just straight time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when he worked overtime, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And Cashmere was generous too. Yeah, we
So
can
he used
get
to, he used
into
to,
that.
he used to buy you stuff.
Yeah,
and
it got to the point
bring
where
you food and all that.
he was the food bringer, and being that I lived, with a roommate with my
Yeah.
friend Danielle, he would just come through, like bring food. Like I would say after the third week or so, he would come in and he'd be like, "Yo, Danielle in her room." He'd be like, "Yeah, knock on the door. Here, this is for you." Plunking down $50. But she liked to see Cashmere
Yeah,
come
yeah.
in. It was just that type of guy. Like yeah, he was
Wow.
very generous with his money. He was
Mhm.
outgoing, and it's like something about him. He just felt like I gotta be the man.
Right,
And it
right,
was
right.
something that he would say in the time that I was dating him, like, let me do that. I'm the man.
Mm.
So I like
So tell me
that.
a little bit more about him. Did he have hobbies? Did he have a family that he
Ooh,
stayed with? Did he-
hobbies. That you asked the right question.
Uh-huh.
That's what we want to get into. He actually had a horrible hobby that I didn't know about. It actually didn't develop until we got further into our relationship. And just to let you know, everybody listening, Views of an Ex audience, our relationship was very short lived. As I was explaining to you in the DM,
Yeah.
it lasted for a season. We just moved at like the speed of a moving train
Yeah.
because everything was just happening. It just felt so good.
Yeah.
He was just sexy. He was romantic. He was generous with his money. But the hobby that he was into, I had to get rid of him early. And I'll tell you why. So anyway, as we're chugging along, just to let you know, it was the warm season, just like
Yeah.
this, like spring going into summer.
Mhm.
So by summertime, he was really comfortable being
Yeah.
with me. We started going on dates at least once a week. Dinner, movies, pool,
Yeah.
bowling, or whatever the usual. Like you said, the sex. Is it okay to talk about
You can
sex?
talk about anything on this podcast.
Okay. This is one thing that I got wrapped up in. This young boy sex knocked me out. At 20 years old, again, I'm
You was
losing
only
my
used
word.
to one person?
No,
Or
not
was
that
you
I
messing
was
with the
used
sugar
to
daddies
one
as well?
person. I was used to older men.
Yeah.
And then if I did have somebody my age, it was some bullshit. Like I said,
Yeah.
puppy love, regular stuff. I had never had mind blowing sex. And this 20-year-old young
He's a
man.
20-year-old.
Yeah, because you know what? Like I said, I was 4 years old. I was 24 at the time. So to have it's like put it like this: all the shit he was doing and making me feel. The saying they have nowadays is, "I know you fucking lying." I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I said, this man knew how to kiss. He knew how to grab. Can I get real graphic? This was the first man that did the choke technique on me at 20. He was the first man to take his hands and put them around my throat during sex and look me in my eyes while he was giving it to me. I had never experienced no shit like that.
Turned you up.
I was like, oh, Cashmere, young man, who taught you?
Mm-hmm.
I want to shake their hand, and it was good. It felt real good, and he was working hard. But I am gonna say he did like to drink, and it got to the point where I noticed as we went along that he didn't drink just to have a good time. It seems like he was drinking to kill his pain, just to get into a little of his background. He came from a single parent home. He had a mother that was chasing her own demons. You know, she had habits in the past, and being neglectful of her children. So I kind of, all of it, the whole shit, drugs, like not really being there for her kids like she should have. And I'm starting to think I'm getting from that. That's where all of his whole thing about I'm the man, I gotta be the man. Maybe there was a point in his life he felt like he had to be the protector in his household. Like he didn't give me a lot of his background, but he said a lot without saying it, so
you had to learn from the streets, probably.
And then just to let you know, in the construction world, there was a lot of drinking on the job going on at that time. Like they didn't care how you got it done, as long you can have liquor in you can have a couple of cans of beer, just get the job done. And that's the type of.
I did construction once. The people that's hiring you, they don't really know. They're just picking you up, taking you to the spot.
Especially for men, as long as you look strong, young, and capable, they just don't fall out drunk on the job.
Exactly. So. They don't care about anything. It's just picking you up. You go to the location, they pick you up, do the job.
So he was definitely imbibing at work.
Yes.
And then it got to the point where when I saw him, I could tell he started smelling like liquor to me. It was just like, I would say after about 2 months of dating, it got to a point where it's like, when is this nigga not drunk? He was starting to lose.
How would he act when he was drunk?
Ridiculous. Like it really just started. It was just like, this isn't fun.
So it was like
anymore.
a Dr. Jekyll.
Yes, it's like he just completely changed on me, and I just didn't understand. I'm like, is it the heat? Because I told you we met in the start of the spring. So maybe as the heat, of the summer came, he just didn't know how to handle heat and liquor. It just started acting. It wasn't romantic anymore. Like when we first started dating, he wouldn't get drunk on a date with me.
Okay.
Then it got to the point where he got so comfortable. If we went to a restaurant, he would sit and just get wasted on the fucking day.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like he was starting to become an embarrassment. Yeah. So.
And what was it? The passion, him being.
I gotta be honest with you. I was stigmatized. Like all the words that we use now, we didn't have those words back then, but I absolutely was. And you know what? The drinking made the sex more passionate. Like I had my lip poked out. Like, I don't want you drinking like this, Cashmere. Like you really shouldn't. And he really like shut up. You know you like me when I'm drunk. And next thing you know, we having the greatest sex ever. And I would shut up. And then, he's giving me money for a new wig and to get my nails done. And we going to dinner again. And, it was a lot of stuff that I let slide.
Yeah.
But then it got super stupid. This is where the hobby comes in. So I would say maybe about month 3 after dating, and then I'm discovering that he likes to drink in excess. He showed up at my house with like little cut under his eye, bruise on his face. I was like, why you had a fight? So he like, yeah. So he came in and, he's comfortable now. He's comfortable with my homegirl. Everybody love him. He flopped down on the bed. He was like, I'll talk to you about it. So he jumps up out of nowhere. A couple of hours later, the day he came home with the bruises. Yeah, babe, we started a fight club at work. I said a fight. A fight club. I wouldn't bullshit you.
This is when the movie came out?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he really and I'm talking about, he was so excited. He let the shit get him. He's like, yeah, we started a fight club at work. I said, what you mean a fight club at work? Where they was really after work on the job, just fucking each other up for money.
Wow.
Fighting each other for money, placing bets on each other, just like in the damn movie. And like you said, it was because of this stupid ass movie, Fight Club.
Yeah. Imagine if it would have came out now.
It'd be Gun Club.
Yeah.
Like these dudes ain't ready to
Yeah.
throw no hands like that.
Oh,
you
right.
bruise one of these
Yeah.
guys now, that's the end of their life. Yeah, like what? You put a cut on.
Said Gun Club.
Yeah, so he came home with, little cut in the bruise. And then so I told my friend, she just looked at me. It was like, ooh, Cashmere, crazy. But you know what? They liked him so much. They just thought he was so cool.
Yeah.
And like
Only
I said,
Danielle knew him? Or other friends knew him?
other friends, like he would come, like all my little Bronx people. Oh, I should have mentioned that everybody fell in love with Cashmere. He was the life of the party.
Yeah.
Like I said, he was generous. He was making all this money. Like he was really the type. Like say we would have a day, like we was trying to be grown. We'd have a day on Friday. Look, Danielle called it fuck them, and feed them fish on Friday. That she said that's something her mother taught her. Her mother would say that fuck them and feed them fish on Friday. So
Really?
on Friday she would actually have fish fries, and Cashmere was the one here. How much y'all spend on the fish? Or this is what I want. How much you need? 50, 100, 150. And that was good money. We talking about the early 2000s.
You get
And
some-
then
you
there
get
was
a lot of
times
fish,
he
crabs,
would,
all that
yeah, he
stuff.
wouldn't just come in drunk. He'll come in with bags in each hand full of liquor. So you coming in with money and liquor. But they love to see Cashmere coming.
yeah.
Like if he wasn't around, it was like, where Cashmere?
Right.
So.
Do you remember his sign?
Oh my goodness. Cashmere? You know what? I'm gonna tell you. I was able to look it up, and I'll tell you why. We'll get further into
yes.
his hobby.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, and that's back then I wasn't into astrology, and I actually should have been, because it definitely matters. But that's another topic for another day. I think Cashmere was a Virgo.
What?
Yes.
I hear all these bad things about Virgo. You hear
No,
what
you know
Tyler
what's
be saying
funny?
about Virgos.
He was actually and I love Tyler's Tarot. I'm a disciple of Tyler. He to me was the opposite of what I thought about Virgos. Virgos are known for being like super like anti like germs and shit, like they're germaphobes. To put it like this, to me, it was outside of a Virgo's nature to come home with bruises and cuts and letting somebody whoop on him. He was super clean, very neat, very sexy, clean cut. But that part, that wasn't Virgo energy. That must have been some other part of his
some
astrology.
rising or moon.
Yes,
some
he
other,
must have had some Scorpio in him or something, Aries, if he wanted to fight like that.
My brother's Aries. That's crazy.
Yeah, and they
He always
love to fight. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, with this hobby of his, how often would it happen?
It got to the point where I was losing count. Like he was just coming in, beat up, bruised, fucked up, don't want to talk about it, drunk. But then this is where the violence starts. I would say after maybe about 3-4 times of complaining about it, it turned into a grab session. One day I was complaining about the fight and shit. I was like, yo, you starting to look real wild. Like you come now, I'm being grown. I'm acting like a cougar. You're coming in with bruises and shit on you. I was like, you're starting to look real crazy. I never forget one day he grabbed me and it was like, yo, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Don't I give you money? Don't I take care of you? I don't want to hear this shit. He didn't hit me, but he pulled me in so close. And it was just so, it was violent.
Aggressive.
Yeah, it was super aggressive. It was just, and he had never spoken to me like that before. And I was just like devastated. And this is behind closed doors in my room where nobody can hear. And I'm embarrassed to tell because I really was crazy about him. I didn't want to start, any trouble within my friend's household. So I kind of just let him get away with that.
Really?
Yeah. And I shouldn't have, but I did.
And that was the first time that happened?
That was the very first time.
So you allowing that opened another door to
yes,
something else.
but for basically to just get crazier.
Yeah.
Then, speaking of crazier, he got crazier. So after
this honeymoon stage is over.
Yes, it's way over. So now we went from spring, now we deep in the summer. Let's just say maybe about August now. He went from the fight club. He comes home one day and he's got books under his arm. I wouldn't bullshit you, Llama. I'm like, what kind of books you read? Ain't you stopped at the library? This man got books of martial arts. He got some Bruce Lee book, some other
He must have been getting beat up. He got to tighten the skills up.
No, he wanted to become a student of the martial arts genre. So he went from fight, like it just got super crazy. So you went from regular like bare knuckles fighting to now you want to be a real martial artist. So again, everybody in the circle just thought it was hilarious. Oh, Cashmere crazy. Look at it. It was calling him Bruce Cashmere. Like, look at Bruce Cashmere. Look at you. So he would it got to the point where say, we'll have a get together at the house. He'd ask if he could demonstrate shit on them or whatever and do it. But when he got to me, this is what was embarrassing. One day, he kind of like lined everybody up and did some kind of body slam. Because now he wants to be a martial artist. He's reading books and shit. So he did it on my friend. He did it on like 2 more people. When he did it on me, it was like he was really trying to snap my back in half. And they even looked like, whoa, like, son, like, that's a woman. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And it was like, she all right. So basically, he started using me as like his
like a dummy.
test dummy. For all of the stupid martial arts shit that he was into. And this was in front of people. And it got to the point where behind closed doors, it was even worse. And I was so embarrassed because I was asking myself, like, how did I get here? Like, what the fuck did I do to deserve this? Or is he, like, my mind was just so blown. It was like, maybe he is serious about martial arts and he's not trying to hurt me. Like, he never made me bleed. Like, I never had, like, a broken bone or broken jaw or whatever.
Yeah.
But he was just being really, like now it turned violent. Your body slamming me, you're choking me. It was crazy. Like,
Exactly. That's not cool at
yeah,
all.
so that brings it back to when you asked what were his hobbies. This became his hobby. Everything was all about fighting.
Yeah.
Yes. It was like, my God, what did I do to get here?
And taking it out on you?
Yeah.
For no reason.
It's not even taking it out like you said, using me like as a crash test dummy.
Yeah, so he'll learn something.
Yeah,
and be like, what can I test it
that
on?
was what he was saying. Like he'll read something. Like one day, he really had the book in his hand. We standing in my friend's kitchen. He's like, yo, come here. And I was like, what? And he just grabbed me and did some type of crazy technique on me while he had the book in one hand. I'm so serious. You know, even though I wasn't a baby, I was so young where I can't say I didn't know right from wrong, but it's like I didn't know who to tell. It was embarrassing. Look at me today. I'm in my 40s and talking about it now is crazy.
Yeah.
So imagine then actually being in it. It was just out of control. I didn't know what to do.
Dang.
Yeah.
Because people will laugh.
Yeah.
They'd be like,
See, look what you said. People are laughing.
I'm just thinking about if somebody came up to me and said, yeah, my boyfriend just did this chokehold on me. I'm like,
it was like, oh, yo, come here. Boom, slam. It was like, oh, come on.
Then I would be like, well, he needs some help.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of help, and then it started to get, I was trying to keep it under wraps. I was embarrassed. There was a lot of things that was happening. Look, in that room behind closed doors, then he started embarrassing me publicly. It got to the point where he just didn't give a fuck no more. We were at a barbecue one day in the Bronx. It was a barbecue in the Bronx. Like I said, we lived uptown, but we go back and forth between the Bronx and Harlem. So we were at a barbecue in the Bronx, and one of my people's friends was looking for something. She came to the table where we were at and asked for something. And he gave her an answer that was like so disrespectful. It was just like the way he answered, he might have said something about, what could I get you with your fine ass? And she looked at him. And mind you, her man was there too.
Yeah.
He wasn't immediately where we were, but he was
he
in
drunk?
the air. Yeah, he was drunk.
Yeah.
That's what he would do. Oh, yeah. So he turned into the embarrassing boyfriend while everybody else is up having a good time. You got to sit still because you fucked up drunk. And I don't want you to embarrass me. So I just want you to sit your ass still. So she came over. She could have been looking for, maybe she was looking for the potato salad. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But when she came over, it was like, you seen such and such or whatever it is. He was like, what you looking for with your fine ass? I looked at him like, Cashmere, like, what are you doing? And he grabbed me. He was like, what, you want to show off? You out here showing up? Like, it turned into shit like that.
Wow.
Oh, you showing off? You want me to embarrass you?
Total switch.
Yeah, you want me to embarrass you in front of your friends? Then there was one time we were all sitting in the house. And he was just drunk and acting stupid. We would just have nights. Sometimes we would just stay up. Like, I wasn't smoking back then. And he wasn't either. But they would smoke and we would drink. And we would just have sessions where we just sit up kicking it. You know what I'm saying? Like, her apartment was like the hangout in a sense. It wasn't like in a disrespectful way. It was like, come downstairs to Danielle's house. We want to all sit, chill, whatever she cooked. But I would cook because I like cooking. And he said something, again, disrespectful to one of the group. I don't remember what it was, but whatever he said, it made me look at him. And I replied, I might have said, you really embarrassing me. Look, I felt like Tina Turner, like, you embarrassing me. And you know what he did? I'll never forget this as long as I live. He grabbed me and said, shut the fuck up, because you know I'll be fucking you up when nobody's around. And he said this out loud. And everybody paused like, wow.
Yeah.
So black people, I was like, my business.
Yeah.
But it embarrassed the shit out of me. So yeah.
Wow.
So it was just like a series of embarrassments.
Well, for you, have you ever thought about leaving multiple times?
No, because remember this, he was coming to me. So I was just accepting it. And then
I'm talking about when he act like this and do embarrassing things, you never threaten like.
Let me tell you. Speaking of leaving, we had a date.
Yeah.
One night we had a movie night. This is when he started acting real stupid. He was trying to like hem me up in the movie theater. I don't know what had gotten into him, what kind of devil had hit him, and I like got away from him. So I started running. I'll never forget. And I ended up in the ladies' room in the movie theater. This is in Times Square when everybody used to go to 40 Deuce to the movies. You know what this idiot did? I'm standing in the bathroom and this woman watched me. She was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Shh." She was like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "Just shh." I knew he would do it. He came into the woman's bathroom and he's going underneath each door going, "I know you in here. I know you in here." And he climbed under. He saw me. I'm standing on top of the toilet seat with my feet because I didn't want him to see my feet because he would know I was in there. And he came and he grabbed me and then he kissed me. It was just like toxic. We didn't have a word for it back then. It was toxic. So I thought he was going to hit me and he didn't hit me. He actually kissed me. And, turning to one of those, "You always doing something crazy. You be hurting my feelings." And then, we was
this is your first experience with somebody like this.
I had never, oh my goodness.
When did it become like so bad you had to like take a break or leave?
There was a final straw. There was no break. It went from 100 to 0 real quick. So again, like I said, it was a very short-lived relationship. So now we're going towards the fall. It was one night he had come home drunk from work, took a shower, and then it got to the point where he wasn't even fun anymore. He would really like either flop down on the bed, fall asleep, get up to take a shower and fall asleep again, or get up just to argue and fight.
Yeah.
So this one particular night, he had did this. It was a Friday.
Yeah.
So we're going into the weekend. Nobody got to go to work or whatever. And he was drunk and decided to start an argument with me because I think I was complaining about the drunk shit or whatever. You know what? I was trying to find my strength.
Yeah.
At that age, it was just like I would wait until he was semi-calm to say, "I don't like the way you are, Cashmere. I really wish you wouldn't be this way." And he just started, like I said, he became the shut the fuck up man. Like wouldn't even listen. There was no reasoning with him. So this particular night, it was bad. What he did was he started choking me so bad that I couldn't even scream. Like I couldn't get the scream out. He was cutting off like my windpipe, my vocal cords. I couldn't scream. And I had never been so scared. And at that time, I had a telephone in my bedroom. So when he turned his back, it's like he choked me out like that. He was on me with the shut the fuck up, stop complaining. And when he dropped me, he turned his back on me to go to sleep. Like, "Fuck you, bitch. Shut the fuck up." So what happened was I picked up the phone. This is when, you got the old house phones.
Yeah.
You could hear it. So as soon I picked it up. I didn't care. I just was crying. And I dialed 911. I don't even know what my mind state was because we wasn't home alone. I just don't know what made me dial 911. And he turned over. It's like he woke up like a beast. He turned over and he pushed the receiver down. He clicked it. He was like, "You calling the cops on me?" And I didn't know what to do. So I started crying. And about 5 minutes later, no bullshit, 911 is not a joke, cops showed up at the door. Yeah.
How did they know what it?
That's when I discovered that when you dial 911, especially back then from a home phone, even if you hang up, that's an emergency. It's already in motion. And they really feel like something must have happened. Like that's because it's connected. But they feel like that's the ultimate 911. Somebody dialing 911 and then they get a dial tone. They feel like that's a person in distress.
Yes.
See, I didn't know that till that night. Because when they showed up at the door, it was like, so my people's answered the door. She was like, "You called the cops, Stella?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "What the fuck is going on?" So I explained it to the cops. You could have just seen, but they said if looks could kill.
Yeah.
I explained to them the situation without giving too many embarrassing details. I didn't tell him about Bruce Lee, martial arts. I was like, he is being violent with me. He has been drinking and I don't feel safe. And they told him that he had to pack his stuff and go.
Yeah.
And he gave me the look of death. He walked out and that wasn't the end of it. I thought it was. I'm thinking, you going back home to your mother, your people. I didn't hear from him for about 2 days.
Wow.
And you know what? I really didn't feel bad. I can't even say I felt free. I just felt, my nerves
like a
were on
relief.
edge. Not even a relief because
What?
I didn't
You didn't
trust
know
it.
what was going. Yeah.
I didn't trust it. So anyway, we all sitting in the house maybe about a week later. It's me, my peoples, Danielle, a people spot, 8 of us in the house. So again, they smoking, I don't smoke. I'm sitting there with a drink. So we hear somebody going, Stella. No shit, like Stella. Stella is me. She lived on the 5th floor at that time. So she got a big apartment. She got windows all
Yeah.
around. Got windows in the back, windows on the side. She came, she like, bitch, come. She said, Joe Cashmere is standing outside. This idiot was standing outside calling up to me. Like you had to see the street light was on. It was crazy.
On the 5th floor.
He's standing downstairs and looking up, yelling like 5 plays.
Yeah,
That's not
that's-
just yelling at me from downstairs and just saying all kind of shit. I'm gonna kill you. Won't you come downstairs? I never forget. It was crazy. We was just standing there looking at him like, yo, my people's there. Yo, she was like, yo, Cashmere, you crazy? What you doing? It was like, tell her to come downstairs, Danielle, because I'm gonna see her. I'm gonna get her one way or the other. Like just acting like a maniac in a movie against some shit that I had never experienced. And then he did the ultimate.
What?
I wish we could find my peoples right now and dig them up and call them so they know, so that I'm not bullshitting. He stood out there. This went on like throughout the night. He refused to leave. Like it got to the point where they got a kick out of it. It was like, yo, this nigga is
He's
really
bugging out.
crazy. We was just like taking turns going in the window, like who gonna watch him next, acting stupid. So he just pacing back and forth, yelling wild, violent shit upstairs to me. I say maybe about an hour after he had been out there, he had his hands behind his head. She was like, yo, come to the window. He had his dick out. He was standing there pissing and said, I'm pissing on your grave. Stella, look at me, I'm pissing on you. And mind you, this is uptown where anything goes down. So ain't nobody giving a fuck. Anybody walking past him, they ain't minding his business. They thinking he's just a maniac. Ain't nobody trying to stop him. I said, you gotta be shit me. And I didn't want to call the cops because I didn't want to invite that type of energy back to our house. And then she was like, come on, we got people. You want somebody to go downstairs and see him? I didn't want that energy either because, like I said, this is uptown. They want a whole nother level with it, with fighting dudes or whatever. And that was it. So he was pissing on my grave. And I guess he stood out there, I say for about 2 to 3 hours until he wore himself out. And that was, and back then there was no social media, no Instagram, no MySpace, no Facebook, no nothing. So when he disappeared, he really just blew away with the wind. Never came back again. It was like some goat never bumped into him. Because the uptown is big. I said you got the Bronx, you got Harlem. Yeah. So where he lived uptown, well, when he was staying with his mother, was nowhere near my side of town. And I honestly never saw him again on the train. But I didn't know. It could have been like that series You. He could have been lurking in the shadows for all I know. And the one thing my friend said that I should have listened to back then that I did, she said, you need to go and get you an order protection. That's before they were saying restraining order. Yeah. And I was like, I don't think I want to do it. It just felt so time consuming. And I was on some lazy shit. I was like, well, he's not around or whatever. And that was it. Never heard from him no more. He didn't stalk me. I was expecting some stalking and shit. I think he just kind of wore himself out.
Was there ever infidelity in this?
You know what? We didn't have time for that. We literally lasted a season. I met him in the spring. Okay. And by Halloween, we was done. Yeah. It was really like a whirlwind, short-lived young romance that went, they used to say, from sugar to shit real quick. And so let's fast forward to the 2000s, like the mid-2000s. Yeah. Anyway, leave it to one of my peoples to mention him. Out of nowhere, I'm like, yo, you ever heard from Cashmere again or seen him? I said, what's so funny? No, I haven't. And now we got social media. That's what made them ask. So we just was sitting one day and just trading stories about all the shit that we, experienced when I was living uptown or whatever. Just a night we just kicking. It's like, yo, remember that crazy nigga Cashmere? You was messing with. Something said, look him up. It was just out of curiosity. Yeah. Are you already views of an ex-listener? This was Mr. Cashmere, the fighter coming home with bruises, Fight Club starter. I looked him up.
Right.
And he showed up, his picture and his name was like on a marquee for BB King's because he is currently an MMA fighter.
You lying.
Look, when it's done, I'll show you everything. Look,
like he really fights professional.
He's a professional MMA fighter, a title fighter. He's championship levels.
Really? Crazy ass. So went and made money.
Yes, and it's like it was in a way. I had to laugh.
Hilarious.
It was not even a slap in the face. It was really one of those moments.
Like all these practice moves.
Yes. It was like it was really a well, I'll be damn moment.
Right.
Well, I'll be goddamn. And he fights to this day on a professional level. If you're into that shit and you do pay-per-view, you'll see him.
Really?
Yeah. And he's a real ass kicker. Like I just couldn't believe it.
He brought in all those books and studied them.
And it was real. Like, who knew? Like, that's why I said I had so many different exes that I could have chose from. But this was one of the wildest that I had experienced early in my life. So, yeah, he's a professional fighter now. Yeah, championship.
No, you didn't
fighter.
reach out to him, though, right?
Absolutely not. Okay. Oh, my goodness. I don't want to get my ass kicked. Yeah. Can you imagine? Like, now you're world class. He could probably do some shit to knock me out, put me to sleep, and nobody ever hear from me again. No, thank you.
Oh my God! So what, after Cashman disappeared, where was you at mentally?
You know what? That's a really good question. I think for the most of my 20s, that was one of the roughest periods of my life as far as dating. I think I had a bad habit of getting involved with men just because I was attracted to them.
Yeah.
Whether somebody else found them attractive or not, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And I was really dating men based on how cute they were or how much game they was running. Like I wasn't using common sense. Yeah, I wasn't using common sense. It was like, oh, he cute, he's spending money, I'ma date him. Next thing you know,
it's something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually, in my later years, ran into another Cashman. And this is my advice, especially to the ladies that listen to Views of an Ex. A lesson that I learned from this: try to avoid men who choose violent, aggressive hobbies. Because years later, in my very early 30s, I got involved with a dude who jumped up and decided that he wanted to be a bodybuilder. So look, bodybuilders, boxers, martial artists, they come with a lot of baggage because it's very rare that in my opinion, most young black men that decide that they want to do shit like that, they usually have a troubled past. Yeah. You ever notice even most of the prize fighters out here that came up, in the streets, in the trenches, group homes, shit like that. It's not a background of happiness. And they kind of bring that bullshit into their relationships.
Like, the ones that do come up with a good background, their daddies was boxers.
Where they at? Exactly. Yeah. Come on, even like I said, down to Mike Tyson, history of domestic violence and abusing women. Floyd Mayweather, he got stories. Him and his ex used to shoot at each other in the street. Like, when is it good? Yeah. So again, like I said, my advice to the ladies listening: if you meet a man, you better off dealing with a dude that say he wants to be a DJ or a rapper than you are some man telling you that he wants to box and
football,
whoop people for a living. So yeah, that was the lesson that I learned. Just be very, very
cautious of their hobbies.
Yes. Wow. Hobbies. I like that word. Yeah, fucking people up is a hobby. It's definitely a red flag.
Because you're going out there taking your somebody may have caused you pain at work. Like, I'm taking it out on this person.
Yeah, and no fight clubs. If you meet a man talking about that he wants to start a fight club or started one, that's definitely a red flag.
My coworker does a fight club.
Shit.
I should interview him.
Because he's from uptown.
But that's crazy. So mentally, you was you just couldn't date. It took you a long time to find the next person.
No, it didn't. I was honestly men found me. Yeah. Like you said, this personality that I got now. Just imagine me in my 20s. That's when I was in my fresh prime. Gotcha. So I was like, I don't want to say I had like a magnetic attraction about me, or like how Charlie Murphy said about Rick James. It was like my aura.
Yeah.
Something about my aura. The men were just drawn to me. So I got mixed up in a lot of shit. Some good, some bad, some crazy. And he was one of the crazies.
Wow. that is crazy.
It's crazy. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah. Shoot, I had a question, but it just left my mind.
I'm sorry.
I'm thinking about this. I want to see who he is. That's why.
Oh, you're definitely gonna
Probably
see.
put some
Look,
money on him.
yeah, you know what? You probably could, but yeah, I'll show him to you.
So Stella, after this, you're coping to healing, like learning from going from having that one boyfriend to this total different thing. How did you look at men after?
Okay, one thing I will say with my experiences, this is what brought me to this today too. I wanted to say this too. The Stella that you're looking at now, now I get the label for being strong when it comes to men. Like I just love them and leave them. You mistreat me, you raise your voice at me, think you're gonna raise your hand at me, it's over. I'm out. Restraining order, I'm not dealing with you, there's no going back. And I have friends, especially my young friends, they look at me now and they say, girl, you so strong. I wish I could be like you. I keep going back. And I don't think they realize, and I have to let them know, this is from years of experience. It's not that I'm so strong. My experiences were my teacher. And that's how I ended up how I am today. And honestly, I'm grateful for it. I'm so happy that I took all my bumps and bruises then from my late teens all the way up into my very early 30s. I got that shit over with because I can't imagine me now in my 40s going through. Can you imagine me meeting a dude like that now? That's I know women in their 40s going through crazy shit like that right now.
And they feel like, oh, I'm here and out of state.
Yes, because you don't know. So basically, all of the lessons, and I'm not saying that I know everything and I've done everything, but I've done a lot and I've experienced a lot. So there are things that I could never imagine myself going through now. Like you can't pull the wool over my eyes. Like they say, you ain't got the drop on me. You think you playing the game with me? I'm not the one. So I like where I am right now. This Stella, who she is right here, right now today, I'm real comfortable with her.
Okay.
Yes.
Were you married?
Yeah. I think he's gonna say that because you know that's the ultimate. If you ain't got no ring, where your husband at? No, I'm not married. Again, you know.
Previously? No?
No.
Nobody ever?
No
Kids?
husband, no children. No. Look, that ship has sailed by me.
Yeah, so when you was in your 30s, you know how you got that little time. I'm in my 30s now, so I'm meeting women that are like trying to rush stuff.
But see, I was different. This is something, I made a decision years ago that I didn't want children because of past traumas.
Yes.
You know, I got mommy issues. Another, you know, that's another, that's a tasty topic for another day. But so I decided a long time ago, there's enough children in this world that need love and care and attention. And I promised that I was going to be the best auntie, godmom that I could be. I don't need to actually birth children into this world to prove my worth as a woman.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. At least you was honest to yourself.
Yeah.
I'm meeting women that's, all right, so yeah, trying to get married.
Oh, you the most wanted baby father.
Right. Exactly. But dating now is just different for me. So being in your 40s, I seen your questionnaire. I don't know if you want to talk about it.
I can talk about it.
You in a situationship.
Yes. You know what I didn't like because I think the question you asked was married, single, or situationship. Yes. So I didn't have too many. Right. So I just put situationship because that's just like the thing that they call it now. Yes, somebody would look at me and say like, I'm seeing somebody heavily. I don't see anybody but him. We don't live together. We're not married to each other. We're not engaged. Yes. So it's like, and you know, this is something that I've talked about. I care about him, but I care about him enough to tell him, if you meet somebody outside of me that you...
So you're like in an open...
No, we're not in open... Like, if you feel like you're tired of me, like there's no weight around his ankle keeping him there. Like, I feel like relationships is something you fight for and you try to hold on to. I'm not in that right now. Like, I'm really in... we going through this together. We take it day by day. We make each other happy, but if you get on my nerves, you can go. If I get on, we can just bail out. Yeah, I ain't trying to hold you. That's what I'm in. That's why I call it a situationship, because I feel like in a relationship, there's like more fight. More, we got to make this happen. We got to make this right. No, I'm not.
So you just about the experience with people and
I feel like the right one, as they say, if you love me and you want to lock me in and I feel like you're worthy, it'll happen.
Okay. Man, that's maturity.
Yeah, exactly.
That comes with age,
right? And getting beat up by a future MMA fighter.
Now, you said learn about people's hobbies before you get with them, or
yes,
just in general?
Absolutely. No, like I said, when you find out. I love that you said hobbies. See what the people that you're dating are into. Like, you'd be surprised that the shit that they're into, that's a lot of what makes up their personality. Like I said, look at this.
True.
You a bodybuilder, MMA fighter. Like
Mhm.
all they wanted to do was aggressive fighting
Yeah, yeah.
shit.
Yep.
Like, come on.
What would you say is the other biggest lesson learned from it? You just now putting alcohol?
It's fine.
Oh.
Why you watching my drink?
You're right. I finished mine.
Yeah, that's the other half.
Man, you about to be lit.
Yes, that's how I do.
What's another lesson learned in that relationship?
Okay, listen to friends when they give advice, especially friends that been through wild shit like
Yeah.
that. Like I had never experienced stuff
Mhm.
like that. I was telling you, my girlfriend was like, "You need to get in order protection against this man." I very well should have,
But
especially with
sometimes, but how do you know when to listen?
you don't.
Mm.
But that's the lesson that I've learned. Listen to the good shit. You got to filter out the bad shit because
Yes.
that definitely was not bad advice. You have a person being abusive to you, and you
Yes.
got a friend or a family member saying you need to get some help or
Mm-hmm.
restraining order. That's never bad advice.
Yeah.
So that's the lesson that I've learned. Just take heed to good advice. You know what good advice usually is? The shit that you don't want to hear at the time.
Yeah.
That's usually what makes it good.
Yeah.
The shit is, I don't feel like hearing this shit. Yeah, it's probably something you needed to hear and listen to. So yeah, that's the lesson I learned. Just
Okay.
take the good.
Yes, yes. Where have you learned love or learned about positive love? Or
I
seen
can
positive
say,
love, I mean.
Not to keep knocking my mother, but she deserves a good knock. Like I said, I got mommy issues. So I was raised on my father's side of the family, and that's where I saw love. I had both my grandparents.
Mhm.
It seemed like everybody on my father's side of the family was married,
Yeah.
or in committed relationships. Like I really saw family structure from that.
Mm.
Like I felt like that was the way it was supposed to be. Like you got people that look at shows like the Cosby Show and go, "Oh, that's bullshit. That's not reality."
Mhm.
Honestly, on my father's side, that was the reality.
Yeah.
And I learned love from that. But on the opposite end, the issue that I had was meeting men who didn't know about shit like that. Like I didn't grow up in this household with, drug addicted parents and
Mhm.
all this other shit. And then especially, being that I'm a 70s baby,
Yeah.
I came up during the crack era. So you were really literally
Yeah.
dating men whose mothers
Just
was
single mothers,
out
yeah.
there doing that shit. And it was like, how can you expect a man who's living like this to be in love with you?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
That's all I say a lot of times for us is just trial and error.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, you mess up that relationship. What you learn from it, go to the next one.
Yeah, but
It's like,
sometimes the
but
errors are just
it's
so
bad. Yeah.
bad.
Bad.
Like I just want to just give one example. When you said learning about love, I remember I was crazy about a dude on my block when I still lived at home
Mhm.
in my late teens, and I was just crazy about him again because he was cute. He was cute and he was popular. I heard some screaming outside my window one day, and I looked outside my window, and he was swinging a bat at his mother in the street. She was crackhead. And now that I look back, what they say, hindsight is 2020. I used to wonder why he treated me so bad, and he never liked me the way I thought he should. And now that I'm in my 40s, I look back and say, how could you expect a man who could swing a bat at his mother in the street? How do you expect that he was supposed to
Yeah,
love you?
yeah.
So this is a
Wow.
lot, yeah.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody going through a heartbreak or a breakup, what's some advice you would give them?
I don't even want to call it advice. All I can say is you have to find methods of here. I'm going to use that word, that mighty H word of healing
Yeah.
that work for you. You have to heal. And this advice I would give, don't jump in and out. When you're going through the heartbreak, let it hurt. Let
Yeah.
it burn. Get over the pain. Don't look for somebody else to carry you through that heartbreak or to put band-aids on your wounds. Gotta find whatever it is that heals you before you can move on. That's the lesson.
Got you. Stella in her 40s, what would you tell Stella in her 20s?
Oh boy. I would have to write a book for Stella in her 20s. But one thing, the old saying that everything that glitters ain't gold.
Mhm.
Like I really don't think just because some guy is cute
Yeah.
and dressed nice that you should just give him a chance based on that.
Yeah.
And that's what I would tell Stella in my 20s, because that's where a lot of my mistakes
A
were
lot
made.
of women need to hear
Just
that.
choosing, and a lot of women won't admit that. We make all these excuses. If you can really go back into your 20s as a woman and ask, how did you get mixed up with most of the men that you got mixed up with, especially the bad ones? He was so cute. He was Mr. Swaggy, Mr. Popularity. He was the coolest cat on the block. And it was like, what else did he have besides that? Probably nothing.
At all.
Yeah.
And then when you get to know them, you know that stuff ain't really there.
Yeah, or it's not, or it wasn't even worth it.
Yeah.
Like all that surface level shit wasn't
Yeah.
worth all of the pain underneath.
Exactly. Do you feel like the good guy gets the bad end of the stick?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I have learned that. That's another lesson I would tell Stella in my 20s.
Yeah.
Don't skip over the good guys. Don't think because some dude is a nice guy that he's a punk and a square. I had a real bad habit of skipping over. Like, I messed over some really, really decent guys just because of that reason. You know, because he wasn't outside playing CeeLo, because he wasn't fighting pit bulls. Like, this is the type of shit that I really was attracted to. Like, what was wrong with Stella in her 20s? Look, and like I said, I didn't even smoke.
Right. It was the aesthetic. It was.
Yeah, it was.
I need a roughneck.
Yeah, I blamed. Yep.
All the
It's
music.
funny you said that. It was the music. It was the vibe. Look, me moving uptown. There was a lot of that type of energy up there.
Oh, he looked like DMX. Oh, he looked like this.
Yeah.
It was the
bad guy. Come on, DMX was a heartthrob back then. Like, who'd have thought? Like, when you tell that the young girls now, they laugh at me. Like, they're like, DMX. Yeah, DMX.
Women love that guy.
Yeah, so.
Last but not least, the song you like to dedicate to Cashmere.
To Cashmere, I would like to dedicate Now I Don't by Lauryn Hill and Mary J. Blige from off of Lauryn Hill's first and only full album.
Really?
Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Now I don't.
Now I don't. Used to.
I don't know the song. I mean the words, but I know that song.
Him. Now I don't. It just feels so good to say, because, like you say, even when I looked him up, I had no desire to reach out to him. It just was like, look at this fool now.
Now, if you had that 20-year-old mindset and he's an MMA fighter professionally, he would have been like, "Oh, let me get back." Would you?
No.
All
I
right,
mean, it still wouldn't have mattered, because who's to say that he's not going upside of whoever's head that he's with, if he's even with anybody? He might be some kind of nut job that can't even keep a woman. I don't know nothing about his life. I just know when I saw his stats and shit in his picture, I was like, yo, he's really a fighter.
That's funny. Wow.
Yeah, I'll
thank you, Stella. That's
Thank
been
you
an episode.
for having me, Llama.
Anything you would like to put out there?
Again, you can follow me on Instagram, everybody, if you're interested in Stella's life. I'm on Instagram at Stella Belafonte. I'm never on Facebook. I don't have Snapchat.
You're not
barely
on
on
Facebook?
Twitter. Yeah, because Facebook is kind of like blah to me. I haven't. If I end up on Facebook, it's because somebody sent me a link to something. But I'm never on Facebook. And again, my little shaky podcast that I am going to have Llama as a guest on is called Tasty Topics. Again, you can find it on Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts.
That's good.
Yeah.
But thank you, Stella. We finally got this done.
Yes, thank you for having
like,
me.
I can't wait to get on
I
there.
was so nervous. You could probably see how nervous I am. But it felt good to be here. I hope I didn't bore you. That was my number one fear. I didn't want you
You was
to
looking
be
at those
bored.
comments. That's why.
Yes.
Like, I hope I don't get on there. And
Look, you got an audience, some tough customers.
she came first. She picked another guy to talk about, and then I put out an episode, and she seen the comments was coming back that was bad. Like, oh, this lady should have just did this. It was it was boring. So she said, you know what? Let me change it to this one because it's more juice in that one. I was like, all right.
That's exactly what
She was
did.
watching.
I'll watch.
But thank you, Stella.
Thank you for having me.
That's been Views of an X.
Views of an X.